A very good evening to one and all. Today I welcome you on the behalf of whole team of Ayuscholar, and this is the fourth session of Shruti Bodham. In the previous sessions, we learned about the formative basis of the Shastra, what makes a Vaidya Apurva, and today we are going to learn about the concept of Ayu. With this, I would like to quote, a statement from one of the previous webinars that was about the irony of life sciences. So, what was being said that when we talk about the contemporary life sciences, the main irony is we hardly talk about life. We talk about the components of life, living systems, but we are not. The sciences are not developed enough to talk about life as a system, as a whole system. And with this note, I would like to welcome Vaidya and Prasad sir. Namaste, sir.
Namaskaram to all of you. Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So a warm welcome to one and each of you. In our last session, we just introduced Athada Ayushkamiyam Adhyayam Vyakhyasyaamaha Idihasmahu Ratreyadayom Harshayaha. Now, Ayukkamayamanena, that is the slogan what we have to start today, isn't it? Yes. Ayukkamayamanena Dharmartha Sukha Sadhanam Ayurvedopodesheshu Vidheyaha Paramadaraha. Just 1 minute, I will share the screen. Yes, it is visible now?
Yes.
Yes. Ayukkamayamanena Dharmartha Sukha Sadhanam Ayurvedopodesheshu Vidheyaha Paramadaraha. First, we will see how it is, the Anvayam goes. Ayuhu, that sentences, I mean the Padachedam, Ayuhu Kamayamanena, Ayuh Kamayamanena, Dharmartha Sukha Sadhanam, Ayurvedopadesheshu Vidheyaha Paramadaraha. Now the Anvayam is Dharmartha Sukha Sadhanam, Ayuhu Kamayamanena, Dharmartha Sukha Sadhanam Ayuhu Kamayamanena Ayurvedopadesheshu Paramadaraha Vidheyaha. Paramadaraha Vidheyaha. So there are many words. Ayuhu, Kamayamanena, Dharmartha Sukha Sadhanam, Ayurvedopadesheshu Vidheyaha Paramadaraha. So here, Ayuhu, that is our buzzword, where everything is moving around. And that Ayuhu is, there are many explanations for Ayuhu, but I think we will take it as the lifespan, healthy lifespan, and longevity. So everyone wants to have a long life, but every long life need not be a gift. And long life is a gift only when it is hitam and sukham. It should be enjoyable, happy to the person concerned, and also his ayus should be beneficial, useful, and a matter of joy to the entire world, to the society as a whole. Then only the life or the ayus is meaningful. Otherwise, it is a curse. So for that, there will be many prerequisites. You cannot expect every life to be of that sort. So we all are longing for that sort of a hita and sukha ayu. So we are all actually ayu kamayamana. So if you are the kamayamana, somebody who is longing for, somebody who wants to get, so that is the idea of kamayamana. Somebody who desires to get ayus. What for? What you should? Someone should wish or desire, have the desire to have ayus, because ayus is dharmartha sukha sadhanam. Sadhanam means a tool. Sadhanam is a tool. And for every life, there are certain objectives. They are known as purushartha. Artham is an object. So we have to achieve certain objectives with our life. Everyone. This is our ancient concept. Why do we live? We live to achieve certain goals. We have certain objectives to reach. They are known as purushartha. And this purushartha is briefly explained into 4 categories: dharmam, artham, kamam, and moksha. Dharmam, artham, kamam, and moksha. Dharmam means, it is a very tough word to explain. The entire schools of philosophy from our side, Indian side, may be revolving around the word called dharma. We know that, okay, what is the putra dharma? What is the shishya dharma? What is the guru dharma? What is the pidru dharma? Bhartru dharma? Raja dharma? Many types of the duties that a person is supposed to deliver to lead a virtuous life, a righteous life. That can be named as his dharma, in the shortest way of explaining it. When I am a student, I am supposed to act, function in a peculiar way so that I do justice to my personal role as a person, as a member of the family, as a member of the society, as a member of the mankind, humankind. So as long as I am a student, I have to work in such a way, act in such a way, so that I fulfill all the duties assigned to me as a student. That is my dharma. Similarly, in the worldly affairs, say grihastha, a family man, he has to take care of the family, his children, wife, parents, both sides. There is no gender bias. So that is to be delivered. That is the dharma. And for delivering that dharma, while you are living a worldly life, you require some means for that. If you are a father and if you have to take care of your children, you require some means to do justice to your role, your dharma as a father or as a mother. That require artham. Artham. Artham is again a word having many meanings, but here maybe the most appropriate meaning in our context is dhanam, wealth. So for delivering the dharma, we need artham. And with that dharma, we have to gain the artha also. By delivering my dharma, I have to get the artha. For delivering the dharma, I may require artha. So there should not be any contradiction. They should match perfectly with one another. And when that blend of dharma and artha happens, you are going to have sukham, joy, pleasure. That is not confined to one person, but to the entire members of the family, entire members of the society. That should be the norm. If you are getting your artham by doing your dharmam, and if it is against the well-being of your family, if it is against the well-being of the society as a whole, you may be feeling that it is sukham, but that sukham is not sustainable. So that is dharmam, artham, sukham. Actually, the sukham is originally of two types, two categories, kamam and moksham. So actually in purushartham, there are four things: dharmam, artham, kamam, and moksham. Dharmam, artham, kamam, and moksha. Here we can find it. I hope you can find my cursor. Sukha dvividham, sukham dvividham. Tadattvigam atyandigam cha. Tadattvigam kiyat kalandarasthaitvad sukhavabhasa na paramarthada sukham. So sukham is of dvividham, two types. One type is temporary. Then second type is atyandigam. Atyandigam is permanent, which endures, which is sustainable. Sustainable not even to this life, but even beyond. So that is quite an attractive offer. That tadattvigam, temporary sukham, is known as kama. And that atyandigam, that is known as moksha. Here, tadattvigam kiyat kalandarasthaitvad sukhavabhasa na paramarthada sukham. Tadatva sukhasapnyeshu bhaveshu ajnonurajyade. Forget it. Tadedad sapnyamatrena sukham na tu atyandamiti pradarshayidum sukhasapnyeshu iti. Forget it. Atyandigam sukham mokshakhyam. Atyandigam sukham mokshakhyam yatra na dukkhanashlesha. So here we find only two things, three things: dharmam, artham, and sukham, and sadhanam, tool. So the tool for attaining the objectives of dharmam, artham, and sukham is ayuhu. So somebody who is longing to be the beneficiary of that ayus, ayu kamayamanaha, tena, by that person, what should be done? What is the way that he has to follow? Ayurvedopodesheshu paramadaraha vidheyaha. He has to have paramadaraha vidheya. Paramadaraha. Param atyartham. Atyartham. At most. Of high regards. Vidheyaha. Vidheyaha actually is to follow. To follow, to oblige, to comply with. To comply with what? Ayurvedopodesheshu. Ayurvedopodesheshu. Upadesheshu. Upadesham. Upadesham here means the vakyam. Upadesham, the word meaning also could be advice. Fine. Suggestions. The advices, suggestions, the statements, the ideas conveyed in Ayurveda, they are to be followed, complied with due respect, extreme respect. Then you can have the privilege of this dharmartha sukha sadhanam ayu. So this is actually defined two things. Here it is explained in Hemadri's commentary. Prayojanadhikarinau darshayadi. Two things. This shloka shows two things. Prayojanadhikarinau. Number one, prayojanam. What is the use? Prayojanam means the use. And two, adhikari. Who is supposed to follow this? Who will have the privilege? So two things. Prayojanam ayuhu. Dharmartha sukha sadhanam ayuhu. And adhikari ayukkamayamanaha. So these two, that is why we have to go through this. I also told why also should be understood. This is to be understood because here it is expressed who is the adhikari and what is the prayojanam of the entire shastra, entire text, all available literature. Right. Then now to make matters more attractive and to show the authenticity of the literature, in the next few lines, the author is trying to show his lineage and how did he come to this noble act of authoring such a work. That is also explained. For the beginner's sake, actually there is the author's name is Vagbhada, we already discussed, and this Vagbhada is seen to have written two texts called Ashtanga Sangraham and Ashtanga Hridyam. So it will be nice if you have a text of Ashtanga Sangraham and to read the corresponding portions, areas from the Ashtanga Sangraham parallel to what we learn in Ashtanga Hridyam. Okay, fine. Now we come to the next sloka. Brahma smrtva ayusho vedam prajapati majigrahal soshvinau tau sahasraksham sotriputradigan munin tegniveshadigan stetu prithak tandrani tenire. I will read it once again. Brahma smrtva ayusho vedam prajapati majigrahal soshvinau tau sahasraksham sotriputradigan munin tegniveshadikam stetu prithak tandrani tenire. So we have to see the words split. Padachedam. Brahma smrtva ayushaha vedam prajapadim ajigrahad saha ashvinau tau sahasraksham saha atriputradigan munin te agniveshadigan te tu prithak tandrani tenire. As you have already received the padachedam and anvayam with you by already in another format, I will not spend much time on it. We will go directly to the anvayam part of this just once, and then we will move to the description. Brahma ayushaha vedam smrtva prajapadim ajigrahad. Brahma ayushaha vedam smrtva prajapadim ajigrahad saha ashvinau. Saha ashvinau, we have to add ajigrahad. Tau sahasraksham. Tau sahasraksham ajigrahadam. Then saha atriputradigan munin ajigrahad. Te agniveshadigan ajigrahan. Te agniveshadigan ajigrahan. Te tu prithak tandrani tenire. That is a anvayam. Te tu prithak tandrani tenire. Now we will find the meaning. Brahma, Brahma. It has got many meanings. The easiest and most straightforward meaning is Lord Brahma. As per the Indian tradition of explaining knowledge systems, one can see that Brahma is the source of all knowledges. But that need not be taken in the literary sense, but it can be taken in the literary sense as well. Doesn't matter. Brahma can be considered as the first non-acharya of Ayurveda. No problem. He is the first non-acharya. He is the Lord Brahma. No problem. Again, we trace the history backward, and at one point there is an end for the documented history. Still we go back, again back, and at one point you will reach to one particular point of absolute consciousness from where everything emanates, everything originates. We do not have a very clear-cut idea about how the form of that consciousness is. Sometimes in the philosophy we call it as avyaktam. Doesn't matter. So from that avyaktam, something manifests, fine. So that may be the Brahma, Brahma Pratnyanam Brahma. So that can be considered as the first ever point of consciousness from which everything else originated. No issue. You have the freedom to interpret. Here, we are personifying some divine concept. And it is again an Indian tradition to say that all the knowledge streams are divine. So we add some sort of a divinity to all streams of knowledge, mentioning that it has got its origin from the heavens, from the some divine source, which will give it some sort of an authority. So that is also important, which makes the entire learning more attractive, because you are learning something which is very authentic, scholarly, divine. Nice. So to make the entire learning process of the textbook more attractive, all these things are beneficial. All these things are useful. So that such a Brahma, smrtva, smriti. Smriti has got again different meanings, but here we will just consider the baseline literary meaning. Smriti means memory. Whatever you have recollecting from whatever you have registered earlier. So here, smrtva. What smrtva means? By remembering, by recollecting. What? Ayushaha Vedam. Ayushaha Vedam. In the previous page, as the last portion, we will find one statement. Ayurveda yadi jnapayati prakriti jnana rasayana dudarishtaadi upadeshad iti Ayurvedaha. Ayurveda yadi jnapayati prakriti jnana rasayana dudarishtaadi upadeshad iti Ayurveda. So what is Ayushaha Vedam? Ayushaha Vedam means the Vedam of Ayus is Ayushaha Vedam, Ayurvedam. Vedam means knowledge, jnana. So Ayus and its Vedam. That jnanam, that knowledge has got many things within it. It need not be simply translated as science. It is dangerous actually, because science, the word science, in its conventional or the contemporary way of understanding, is a dangerous term. Because when you claim that this is also a science, the danger is many things which are quite important, which are quite experiential, but which cannot be listed under the category of science in the modern way of explaining the term, will be lost. That should not happen. Then I think it will be a broken piece only. Ayurveda has many components in it. There are many things which can be read and understood and explained as science. There are many things which can be explained as custom, many things philosophical, many things art, many things ethics, morality. So when you just state that the science of life, I think you are going to lose many of these components which form actually the majority. Because life in its real meaning is not just the application of science alone. Mind has many other planes of logic. Mind has many other planes of perceiving things than the tools of science. So the life is not limited to the or confined to the framework of science. But Ayurveda encompasses all these elements which are related to life. So Ayushaha Vedam means that knowledge which is related to the life and longevity in total. So Brahma, what did he do? He recollected that Ayushaha Vedam. So if he recollected, what does it mean? He had learned it earlier. That means it was there even before Brahma. It is pre-existing. That is why he could learn it and he could recollect. So it is even prior existing than Brahma. That is one way of explaining Smrutva. Another way is, what we are going to say is, he taught this Ayushaha Vedam to Daksha Prajapati. There are many Prajapati, forget about it. It is not of much significance. A person called Daksha Prajapati. So while in the our ancient way of schooling, while the teacher is trying to teach something, first, there will not be a prescribed syllabus and textbooks or guides to follow. So everything will be learned from the Guru, Acharya. So there is a direct mukha. So before going to explain one particular portion or area, the teacher himself will try to recollect what he is going to express today or teach today. So Smaranam is the first part of Adhyapanam. So first I have to recollect, then I have to chant it for you, and I have to make you chant, and then repeat it. And that is how this entire process of communication or teaching was happening. So that way also, Smrutva shows the initiation process of teaching Ayurveda to the next person, who is Daksha Prajapati, whoever it is, a person called Daksha Prajapati. And so Brahma Ayushaha Vedam Smrutva Prajapatim Ajigrahad. Taught. Then Saha Ashwinau, the twin brothers, who are very famous as the surgeon physicians or physician surgeons of Devalokam, of the heavenly kingdom. So Daksha Prajapati taught this Ayushaha Vedam to that twin brothers, Ashwini Kumarau, and Tau Sahasraksham. Sahasrakshaha is Indra, Devendra, the king of that heavenly kingdom, whoever it is. So it is happening in a different kingdom, a different place. So this Ashwin, they taught this Ayushaha Vedam to Indra. Then Sahasraksha is a synonym, another name of Indra. Sahasraksham, Aksham means eye, Sahasram means 1,000. So a 1,000-eyed person. 1,000-eyed person doesn't mean that he has got 1,000 eyes all over. He was so intelligent, such a brilliant person, so that he can have maybe 1,000 perspectives about one single point for analyzing it. And he was a very hardworking fellow, very, very hardworking fellow, was brave enough to venture into any task. And his another name is Shatakratu, who did maybe 100 yaga. So all these things show the standard of the lineage of this flow of the Ayurveda. Good. These are all quite inspiring stories, no? Sahasraksham Saha Indraha Atriputradigan Munin. Atriputradigan Munin Ajigrahad. Saha Indraha, that Indra taught this Ayushaha Vedam to Atriputradigan, Atreyadin Munin. Atriputraha Atreyaha. Atriputradigan Munin. Then that is a group of Maharshis. There Atreya is there, maybe somebody else, Bharadwaja is there, like that. Then that set of Maharshis, Munis, they taught this Vedam to their disciples, Agniveshadigan. Agniveshadigan. Agnivesha is there, Bhela is there, Harida is there, like that. Another set of Shishyas of that previous group of Maharshis. Agniveshadigan. Te tu. And interestingly, what they did is Prithak Tandrani Tenire. Tandrani, Tandram, Grandham, text. Tenire, authored, made. So they made Prithak, separate textbooks of their own interests. So each one of that set of students were interested in their own specialities, and they made the textbooks in their corresponding specialities. Prithak Tandrani Tenire. Agniveshadigan Tetu Prithak Tandrani Tenire. So now, starting from Brahma, we have got a set of books with different specialities. But the problem is, now it is in the earth, Bhumi. Previously it was in the heavenly kingdom. Now it is there with us. But each textbook is dealing with one speciality, and we have many textbooks. So if somebody wants to learn Ayurvedam as a whole, completely, the total Ayurvedam, the problem is sometimes the entire lifespan may be required to learn the available textbooks. So there is no use of learning it. So that is the complex situation. So that is how our story continues. See next shloka. Tebhyo odi viprakirnebhyah prayasaratarochayah kriyadeshtanga hridayam nadi sankshepa vistaram. Tebhyo odi viprakirnebhyah prayasaratarochayah kriyadeshtanga hridayam nadi sankshepa vistaram. Tebhyah adi viprakirnebhyah prayah saratarochayah kriyate ashtanga hridayam nadi sankshepa vistaram. Nadi sankshepa vistaram. Anvayam. Adi viprakirnebhyah tebhyah prayah saratarochayah nadi sankshepa vistaram ashtanga hridayam kriyate. Adi viprakirnebhyah tebhyah prayah saratarochayah nadi sankshepa vistaram ashtanga hridayam kriyate. Now we will see what is the meaning. Adi viprakirnebhyaha tebhyaha. So we saw that there is many textbooks. There are many textbooks now with us. Now Vagbhada is trying to make some sort of a some concise version of all the available literature. Adi viprakirnebhyaha tebhyaha. Adi viprakirnebhyaha. Viprakirnam means spread. Vikshiptam. It is spread. Not even spread. Adi viprakirnam. It is spread diffusely all over. So if somebody has to get a complete idea about one single concept or one single treatment, they may have to search all the literature here in this chapter, that chapter, and it will be scattered all around. And while taking all the effort, some points may be missing. Everything cannot be brought together to one heading or one point. It's very tough. Adi viprakirna. So from that collection, Adi viprakirnebhyaha tebhyaha, from that collection of literature which is so scattered, prayaha saratarochaya, prayaha, almost or mostly, sarataram, saram, essence, sarataram shows a comparative degree, higher degree, which is quite essential. Sarataram. Everything is not included, but whatever the author felt as this is quite essential, which cannot be omitted. So such a work, Sarataram, Uchayam. Uchayam means to bind together, to collect together to one point, to make a heap of all those essential, most essential part from that scattered literature, Praya Saratarochayaha, and he made it a point that the work compiled in such a way will be Nadi Sanksheba Vistaram. Na Adi Sankshebam, na Adi Vistaram. Sankshebam means too concise. Adi Sankshebam, further, Adi shows next grade of that concise nature. Vistaram means vast, spread again. Adi Vistaram, quite vast. So, na Adi Sankshebam, na Adi Vistaram. Neither quite concise nor quite vast. So he adopted some sort of a mid path. Everything which is essential is included, but unnecessary explanations are avoided. In such a way, Nadi Sanksheba Vistaram Ashtanga Hridyam Kriyate. Kriyate is doing, making. So I am making Ashtanga Hridyam. I am making Ashtanga Hridyam by compiling the most essential parts in such a way that this is not very concise nor very vast, but Saratarochayam, which has got all the essential components of the Adiviprakirnam, scattered and rich literature made by that Agnivesha, etc. authors. And now you have this book, Ashtanga Hridayam, which is the best for somebody who is planning to learn the Shastram as a whole, completely, giving deserving place and position to all the components of the Shastra. Tebhyo Vipragirnebhyaha Prayasaratarochayaha Kriyadeshtanga Hridayam Nadi Sanksheba Vistaram. Then next sloka. So here again, why should we learn this? We should learn this because primarily it tells us that Ashtanga Hridyam is of such a nature. Secondarily, it gives us a very important information that everything what was available is not included. Say, for example, take Charaka Samhita as an example. In Charaka Samhita, the way of presentation is entirely different. Entirely different. All the concepts what we see in Ashtanga Hridyam is there in Charaka Samhita. And Vagbhada does not claim anything new in his text. At one point, he is mentioning it very specifically. I have not included even a single word in my textbook, which is not there in Charaka Samhita or Sushruta Samhita or whatever there is in the previous literature. Na matra matram apyatra kinjid agama varjita. Everything is a compilation. Fine. Actually, it is not everything is compilation. He's just showing his love, affection, and his obligation, everything to the teachers. So the point is, if the Charaka Samhita, we will find all sorts of discussions that has happened among scholars, among seers, maharshis, before concluding one particular point. They are quite interesting discussions. Many points are brought for discussing and conclude. So we will find a series of seminars in Charaka Samhita, where there will be different sorts of presentations and Q&A sessions. But interestingly, there will be a presiding scholar, Atreya. And what Atreya did is, as we know, he made all these teachings and Agnivesha compiled it to a text, what we saw earlier. And what Agnivesha wrote, Charaka revised. So that process is a continuation, a continuity is there. And there are brainstorming sessions about each and every point. Sometimes you will find there a question, is there a issue of rebirth or not? So primarily, we may feel that it has no connection with what we are going to learn Ayurveda. Why should we discuss about rebirth, Punarjanma? But there is a discussion. There is a discussion and some points are established. I'm not going to the details. So that sort of things we will not find in Ashtanga Hridyam. So somebody who is interested to know such details, not about rebirth alone, but about every aspect, please go to those textbooks which are much, much superior to my writing, my text, and see what all discussions that have happened in the past and how they resolved. How did they conclude the point to such a beautiful statement? So that is also mentioned in this. That is why we have to learn these two lines. Adivipragirnebhya tebhya prayaha saradarochayah nadi sanksheva vistaram ashtanga hridyam kriyate. Fine. Then going to the next sloka. Kayabala grahordhvanga shalyadamshtra vrishan ashtavangani tasyahus samsrita. Kayabala grahordhvanga shalyadamshtra vrishan ashtavangani tasyahus samsrita. It's a complex word. The first line itself is a single word. So Just for the sake of the beginners, stick on to each and every letter and try to pronounce them properly. Include them in your pronunciation. Kaya bala, because they should not be cut. It is a single word. Kaya bala grahordhvanga shalya damshtrajara vrishan ashtavangani tasyahuschigilsa yeshu samsrita. The first line is a word as such. So while we do the padachedam, kaya bala grahordhvanga shalya damshtrajara vrishan ashtau angani tasya ahuhu chigilsa yeshu samsrita. Now we will make the anvayam. Chigilsa yeshu samsrita. Tan we are adding for the sake of proper completion of the anvayam. Tan kaya balagraha urdhvanga shalyadamshtra jara vrishan tasya ashtau angani ahuhu. Chigilsa yeshu samsrita tan kaya balagrahordhvanga shalyadamshtra jara vrishan tasya ashtau angani ahuhu. Chigilsa yeshu samsrita. Samsrita, dependent. Yeshu samsrita, dependent on something or on that thing. Chigilsa yeshu samsrita. Chigilsa, the word chigilsa means treatment of a condition. So chigilsa yeshu samsrita, based on the chigilsa or upon which chigilsa is dependent, tan kaya balagrahordhvanga shalyadamshtra jara vrishan. We will find 8 pieces in it. Kayam, balam, graham, urdhvangam, shalyam, damshtra, jara, vrisha. So chikilsa is dependent upon these 8 sapnyas, terms. Kayam, graham, balam, graham, urdhvangam, shalyam, damshtra, jara, vrisha. So connect the word chigilsa with each one of this group of 8. Then it becomes kaya chikilsa, bala chikilsa, graha chikilsa, urdhvanga chikilsa, shalya chikilsa, damshtra chikilsa, jara chikilsa, vrisha chikilsa. So chikilsa is dependent upon these 8 things. Kaya chikilsa, you will have to understand what the meaning of all, especially the beginners, exclusively for the beginners. What is kaya chikilsa? The chikilsa of the kayam. Kayam means shariram. A fully grown, mature shariram is known as kayam. Mature. So the chikilsa of such a kayam, such a body, with its all ailments, is known as kaya chikilsa. Bala chikilsa means balan. Balaha means child, immature, not fully grown body. So the chikilsa of a body, a person with incomplete, immature, not fully grown shariram, that is a branch called Bala Chikilsa. Bala Chikilsa. Graha Chikilsa. Graha Chikilsa is the branch which deals with the mental disorders. With the mental disorders. Graha Chikilsa. The word graham here means some sort of a possessions which will be presented as disorders in behavior. Primarily, disorders in the behavior. The details of which we will come to later, because it cannot be explained to the full extent at this point. Urdhvanga Chikilsa is the next one. Urdhvangam means angam means avayavam, part, organ, or part, region. So urdhvangam, angam, which is urdhvam. Urdhvam means upper. So the chikilsa of that angam, which is urdhva, upper, the upper body, above the level of this base of the neck. Above the level of the base of the neck is known as urdhvangam, which shiras, with all the other organs, ears, nose, eyes, then the scalp, and the structures inside, maybe the oral cavity, the teeth, the tongue, everything, throat. So the treatment related to this urdhvangam is known as urdhvanga chikilsa, which is also known as shalakya tantram. Then shalya chikilsa. Shalya chikilsa means something which can be explained as a surgical branch. Trauma, injury, ulcers, their healing, foreign bodies, impaction, their removal, surgical procedures, suturing, cleaning, incision, many things. Everything comes under Shalya Chikilsa. Damshtra. Damshtra means Visham. So Visha Chikilsa. Visha Chikilsa. Jara. Jara means old age. So earlier we saw Kaya Chikilsa of a full-blown, fully grown, mature body. Bala Chikilsa, which is immature. Jara Chikilsa means problems with the old age. How to treat old age, how to delay aging, how to age gracefully, how to maintain good health even during aging. All these things are discussed in Jara Chikilsa. Vrisham means your capacity to procreate the next generation. So something which is related, the treatment aspect related to the capacity to procreate, reproductive strength, problems, disorders with the reproductive capacity, all are included in Vrisha Chikilsa, which is otherwise known as Vajigarana Chikilsa. Jara Chikilsa is otherwise known as Rasayana Chikilsa. So we find here 8 things, 8 branches based on Chikilsa. Ashtau Angani. Here again we find Angam. Angam, division. Ashtau Angani, 8 divisions, 8 branches based on treatment. That means if you try to divide the Shastra on some other criteria, there may be other areas. Say, for example, in your college, you may have 14 departments. So we will see the basic principles department, Kriya Shariram department, or Rajana Shariram department. They are not based on the Chikilsa. These are the branches based on Chikilsa. So Chikilsa yeshu samsrita Tan kaya balagrahordhanga shalyadamshtra jara vrishan tasya ashtau angani ahuhu. Tasya means two meanings. Number one, Ayurvedasya. Other chance is Ashtanga Hridayasya. Because we were explaining about the authorship of Ashtanga Hridaya in the previous sloka. So thus Tasya can be Ashtanga Hridayasya, Ashtau Sthanani. So Ashtanga Hridayam, the word itself shows that this is a compendium of topics related to the all 8 branches of Ayurveda, which is made based on the branches of Chikitsa. That is how. So this is also what we have to understand, because this explains the very nature of the Shastra as well as this text, and their Shastra as well as the text. So we have covered maybe 6 or 7 slokas, I think, or at least 4 or 5 slokas today. Slowly, I think we will be entering to the actual philosophical or the Shastra part of the text in our next session. If there are some doubts, if there are something to be clarified, we will discuss, we can discuss. And my request is, while we are learning these sessions, the very first chapter or the first areas, those who have enrolled for their first BAMS this year, my suggestion is, don't be judgmental. Many of the doubts what you have right now will be cleared by the time of completing the Ayushkamiyam. So listen. But that doesn't mean that you have no right to ask any questions. You are free to ask any number of questions, no problem. But only request is, don't be judgmental, don't be preoccupied, and don't try to understand these portions, what we learned and what we are going to learn, with the tool of what you have already acquired in your previous academies. So keep your cup empty. Whatever we serve, you take it for the time being, but that is not an instruction, that is not a command which you have to follow all throughout your Ayurvedic career. But when you have a transitional jerk, a transitional zone to cover, the best option is to keep all the senses open, smell it, taste it, see it, hear it, use all the 5 senses and grab whatever you get and swallow and get ready for the next serving. So keep the cup empty. Right. With that, we will conclude today. If there are a couple of questions, we will take it. Otherwise, we will wind up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, then see you next Monday. Namaste. There is one question, I think.
Aushadh is one among 3 sutra, but not included in Ashtang.
Okay. Aushadha is one among 3 sutra, but not included in the 8 branches. That is what I understand. Actually, that Aushadha is a tool for the Chikitsa. So in all the 8 branches, Aushadha is included. In all the 8 branches, Aushadha is included. Okay. And when you ask questions, I think don't shy away. Whatever, I think we are going through the very basics. Basically, it is meant for the first BAMS students to cover up the transitional phase. So don't feel bad in asking any type of questions. What I told earlier was just a request. Don't be judgmental, but you can ask any sort of question. If we don't have an answer this time, we will come up with the answer next time. That's all. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, if there are no other questions, we shall conclude the session, sir.
How to start Sadada Adhyayana for beginners. Very good, very good. I'm happy to see this. Sadada Adhyayanam means, Adhyayanam is learning, Sadada means continuous. Learn always, that is Sadada Adhyayanam. Sadada Adhyayanam Chinda Paratandra Avalokana. What you have to do is, you will be learning many technical terms. So try to understand them. Try to feel them, put them into your own life. See your life in that light. So all these things will be one part of a Sadada Adhyayanam, because Adhyayanam is a part of our experiential learning as well. Meantime, if we plan to take Ashtang Hridyam as our Swadhyaya Grantha, read the first chapter at least to start with every day. Don't bother about whether all the words communicate properly with you or not. Read it. If possible, read it aloud with the proper pronunciation, maybe in a group. If you are in maybe in a web platform or in the hostel, read together and make your pronunciation proper, clear. Because the power of the sound, shabdam, that itself is going to make you, take you to a different level. So every day you read Ashtanga Hridayam first chapter, and as and when we move further, then increase the chapters. At least the first chapter, read every day, whatever or however busy you are. Let there be assignments, let there be exam modules, everything. Read Ayushkamiyam every day. And as I told earlier, try to experience. Say, for example, when we move forward, we will come across gunas. Ruksha guna, snigdha guna, like that. Try to experience them. If you have to understand what Vayu is, you have to put yourself in the outdoors and experience the Vayu from the nature. Similarly, to understand what Pitta is, expose yourself to bright sun and understand what is happening to your body. Expose yourself to the water or to the moon and see what is the properties, what is happening to your body. So that experiential learning is so crucial, and that is what we lack actually these days. We are becoming more and more confined to the text, into the classroom, to the screen. That is bad. That should not be. That should not be the way of understanding a Shastra like Ayurveda. It is, of course, reading the latest publications, peer-reviewed journals, all are important. They have got their own position or importance or strategy, no doubt. But ultimately, as I told in one of our previous sessions, we are going to learn Ayurveda, not learn about Ayurveda. If it is just a matter of learning about Ayurveda, you could have gone through all the available literature, no problem. But we are learning Ayurveda. While learning Ayurveda, it has got Adhidi, Bodham, Acharanam and Pracharanam. Forget about Pracharanam for the time being. Adhidi, Bodham and Acharanam. Adhidi, learn by heart. Bodham, contemplate on it and get the proper meaning of every word, every sentence, every sloka. Then Acharanam. You live what you learn. That is a different level of understanding, much superior to the textual learning. On a later date, seeing a patient and touching him, you should understand all the peculiarities of that person, whether he is having a snigdhata on his body or rukshata, or what is tikshnata, what is mrudu, what is karam, what is kadhinam. All these, your hands should be sensitive enough to perceive them. So sharpen your senses in such a way. That makes a different feeling. So that is a part of sadadadhyanam. Sadadadhyanam is not confined or not limited to textual reading, but it all starts from textual reading. I hope I am clear. Okay, so that is how you have to nurture the way of this continuous learning, sadadadhyayana, from the very beginning. No. Is it necessary to, can I read the question? Is it necessary to study Rajana Sharira, Kriya Sharira before studying Ashtang Hridyam? It's a tough question to answer. The problem is you will have different departments for these topics and different teachers, and they will have their own share of syllabus, which is to be completed in a stipulated time. So they will move with it. Don't bother about it. Learn what they teach. Meantime, understand the fact that these are all not entirely different. What you learn as Ashtanga Hridayam, maybe in the Sutrasthana, actually that is a part and parcel of your Kriya Shariram. Actually, in the Ayurvedic classics, there is no division called Kriya Shariram and Rajana Shariram. There is only Shariram. And while you learn these as two separate topics, you get some sort of a preconceived notion that Rajana Shariram is anatomy, Kriya Shariram is physiology. And you try, as I told earlier, we become judgmental for a while and we put Rajana Shariram with the anatomy textbook and Kriya Shariram with the physiology textbook. Then we start comparing topics explained in the physiology text and what you learn in the Kriya Shariram. Then you will find so many mismatches and you will be shattered emotionally. You will feel frustrated to stand with which league, whether with the league of physiology or with the league of Kriya Shariram. Similarly, you learn anatomy, and interestingly, your practical sessions in Rajana Shariram is mostly based on anatomy. So you will have the thrill of seeing what you learn in the anatomy textbook with the dissection table, with that dissection of the dead body. You are going to see all these things. Meantime, your dissection sessions are not based on Rajana Shariram. So again, there will be some elements of frustration. So don't bother about all these things. Kriya Shariram and Rajana Shariram put together as Shariram. Shariram means the study of Sharira, and it starts from how the life is getting originated in the mother's womb. That is how the Ayurveda Shariram starts. It is not starting from the dissection table. So step by step, we will find one after the other how this conception is happening, how the baby grows in the womb, what are the possibilities of development, how the different organs are evolving. These are the Ayurvedic way of understanding. Don't get stuck with the effort of comparison of modern anatomy and the Ayurveda Rajana Shariram, the modern physiology with Ayurveda Kriya Shariram, because this is the connecting link between the Sutrasthana and the Nidanasthana. Slowly, it is an evolution, a slow procedure. So don't be judgmental. Sometimes you will find that, okay, there are 360 bones explained in Ashtang Hridyam, and there is no much bones explained in the modern textbooks, which we can see on the dead body. So this is supposed to be an ant. Forget about it. When you really count the bones as explained in the modern textbooks, stick on to the modern textbooks. Don't mix it up with the Rajana Sharira. When you read the Asti explained in the Rajana Sharira, in the Anga Vibhagam, try to understand it in a different perspective. Don't mix up. Don't compare. This is meant for something else. This is the connecting link between the Sutra Sthanam and the Nidana Sthanam. Of course, there may be factual issues. Leave it off. Because that is nothing to be finalized with a judgment. Leave it. When you feel that, okay, we have to come up with a new literature, we will come up with a new literature. We are not supposed to make any correction in an existing text. Take it as such. And that Shariram is again going to help you in resolving disease conditions, deciphering disease conditions, explaining disease conditions. Most of the portions explained in the Sharira are quite essential to understand what a Vyadhi, a disease, is. So you need not bother about taking this entire text into different pieces. So there is no issue in reading Rajana Sharira, Kriya Sharira before Ashtanga Hridayam, because we will catch up with it. Because ultimately, there is no much difference between these subjects. Only problem will be when you try to judge Kriya Shariram with the physiology and Rajana Shariram with the anatomy. Right. It is very good that we have got these sort of questions at the very beginning, because there was nobody to explain all these things to us when we were learning in the first years. And we tried a lot, we suffered a lot to come out of all these struggles in the beginning. Next question is, when we study two samhitas comparatively and there is a difference in the types of diseases as per the different acharyas, how can we understand this? Okay, when you understand one samhita, try to understand the way of explaining adopted by the author. Each text is written in a particular context by a particular author, representing a particular school in a particular style. So the context is important. Author's technique is to be known. That need not be in the disease section, and in the basic section itself, you will find these sort of issues. Say, for example, when you learn Vipakam from Ashtanga Hridayam, you will find 3 Vipakam. With Sushruta Samhita, you will find only 2 Vipakam. So don't think that there was a confrontation, a street fight between Vagbhada and Sushruta at that time to make a conclusion. Sushruta explains Vipakam with a different perspective. Vagbhada explains from a different perspective. Similarly, while explaining the types of the diseases, a particular disease, Sankhya Samprapti, there may be differences. Say, for example, while we explain this disease from a surgical perspective, the division may be different. From a medical perspective, the division may be different. While explaining Srodhas, Charaka adopted one particular style of explaining Srodhas, whereas Sushruta came up with a different type of explanation. Because he was more concerned about the injury that can happen to the Srodhas. So his priority was the injury from a surgical viewpoint. Whereas Charaka was explaining it in a medical perspective. So functional aspects were dominating. So there is no conflict. Try to understand each samhita in its own context and the interest of the author. Right. when we have Drishta Shastra, the very well explained Shastra millions years ago before allopathy, then why not our Ayurveda is taken as a proven study well before allopathy? Why nowadays, what is it? Why nowadays they just ask for scientific scientific research and not believe in our Samhita, which has everything? See, it is a different topic if I start explaining it. Shastra is in the present way of understanding. Say, knowledge is not just for the sake of understanding things, for gaining knowledge, for living happy life, but also for satisfying the needs of the market. With every bit of knowledge in the stage, there are elements of politics and economics behind the screens. So we will be finding the science only, the Shastra only in the stage, but behind the curtains, with every character, there will be lots of economics and politics. Market is the script writer. He is the director of the show. So something which is not suiting to his ambitions, his needs, it is very difficult to maintain in the center stage throughout the show. But that doesn't mean that it is invalid. I'm giving you the briefest possible answer, because that itself is a big issue or a topic of explanation. So I hope you will get the gist of what I'm trying to explain. That is why this sort of everything is there, in spite of one of the most ancient, still one of the most lively tradition we have in our country, right? Okay, I think I took too much time extra. Thank you very much to every one of you.
Thank you so much, sir, for
Thank
the
you very
insight.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.